Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on Legends Day, the day before the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500, and welcome to our preview of this greatest spectacle in racing, one of the greatest sporting events in the world, the Indianapolis 500. In this video, we will go through some of the biggest storylines. We'll go through history, we'll look at the starting grid, and we'll get you ready as you can be for the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500. If you're just tuning in for the first time, I'll give you the very quick rundown. The race distance is 500 miles. It's contested on a racetrack that is 2.5 miles. It's 200 laps around. The race is going to be broadcast live and free on IndyCar Radio, and if you need visuals with that, if it races on Sunday, it will be broadcast on the big NBC network here in the United States, and if it's delayed till Monday, which we expect rain is going to impact the Indianapolis 500 tomorrow, one way or the other, if it does go to Monday, it will be broadcast on the USA network. Bird down. But I figure that the best way to start this out is to take one last look at the starting field. For the first time since 1988, it's an all-Penske front row with Scott McLaughlin, the new record holder, on the pole. In the center is Will Power looking for his second Indy 500 win. On the outside is Joseph Newgarden looking to become the first repeat winner since Helio Castroneves in 01 and 02. Row 2, Alexander Rossi looks for his second win and might be the best challenger to Penske. In the center is Kyle Larson, who's done so much for this sport over the last month. He's doing the Indy 500 Coke 600 double with his regular duties in NASCAR. And outside is the hero of last year driving for AJ Foyt Racing, Santino Ferrucci. Row number 3 is Rinus VeeKay, who recovered from a crash in qualifying to qualify up into the Fast 12. Pato O'Ward, the ever-popular Mexican, in the center, and on the outside, the fastest Honda in the field, Felix Rosenqvist. Row number 4 sees Takuma Sato, the 2020 and 2017 winner, on the inside, Kyle Kirkwood, who was upside down last year, and on the outside, Ryan Hunter-Reay, who won this race 10 years ago. Row 5 is one of the strongest in the field, Colton Herta, who is yet to win the 500. In the center, Alex Palou, the IndyCar champion. And on the outside is the World Endurance Championship regular, Callum Ilott for McLaren. Row 6 sees two rookies flanking an extreme veteran. On the inside is Marcus Armstrong, who is in his first oval start. Ed Carpenter, the Butler Bulldog. And on the outside is Kyffin Simpson, the only teenager in the field. Row 7 is the second most experienced row ever at the Indianapolis 500, combining for 62 total starts. Marco Andretti on the inside, still looking for his first win. Helio Castroneves looking for his fifth. And Scott Dixon looking for his second, his worst starting position ever. Row number 8 sees Augustine Canapino, who has a very fast car, Stingray Robb for AJ Foyt, and Christian Rasmussen, the exciting rookie, on the outside. Row number 9 is WEC and IMSA regular Tom Blomqvist on the inside in his first Indy 500. Romain Grosjean in the center, and Linus Lundqvist for Chip Ganassi Racing on the outside. Row 10 sees Christian Lundgaard, the popular Connor Daly, and Pietro Fittipaldi, the grandson of two-time winner Emerson. And the final row, row 11, Catherine Legge in her fourth Indianapolis 500. Marcus Ericsson, the 2022 winner, starting deep in the field but feels he's got at least a top 10 car to compete. And Graham Rahal qualifying for the Indianapolis 500 and starting from the same position in the field that he started last year. So one of the cars that will be leading the field to the green flag tomorrow, or at least going around the racetrack before the field of 33 takes to their 500-mile journey, is the 2003 Indianapolis 500 winning car. But unfortunately, the driver who took it there is no longer with us. And this is our tribute to the 2003 winner of the Indianapolis 500, Gilles de Ferran. Gilles de Ferran is by far one of the most underrated winners in Indy 500 history. A 9-year career in IndyCar ranks as one of the greatest of all time, and yet is one of the least recognized. De Ferran's Indy 500 career got off to a false start in 1995 after being involved in an opening lap accident, and like many of the drivers of his era, found himself racing in Michigan the next year rather than Indianapolis. In the hottest years of the split, de Ferran would establish himself as a driver who could extract the most out of his equipment and was one of the most respected in the paddock. His reputation would earn him an opportunity with Team Penske in 2000, where he went on to win the kart championship and set the closed course speed record at Fontana. 2001 would mark a turning point in the split when Team Penske returned to the Indy 500. They brought both of their kart drivers, the champion de Ferran and the young, energetic Helio Castroneves. Team Penske returned with the dominant form that had raised their team to legendary status, leading a combined 72 laps and finishing 1-2 with Castroneves leading de Ferran across the line. Gilles would win the kart championship in 2001, making back-to-back championships, but Team Penske would fully switch allegiances in 2002 to the Indy Racing League, shifting the balance of power in American open-wheel racing. Penske entered the 2002 month of May as the odds-on favorite, and De Ferran appeared to have the best chance to earn a second consecutive victory for Roger Penske. But on the final pit stop, a loose wheel fell off, taking De Ferran out of contention. Helio Castroneves picked up the pieces and won his second consecutive Indianapolis 500. The Penske dominance continued in 2003. This time, Castroneves was the clear favorite, taking the pole at over 231 miles per hour in his Dallara Toyota. De Ferran chose a different path, preferring the new Panos over the Dallara. Through much of the race, the two Penske drivers dueled for the lead, and thanks to lap traffic, a late race pass by De Ferran on Castroneves would be the last lead change, and Gilles would take the signature win of his career, winning the 2003 Indianapolis 500. A bid for a third championship crown would come up short to a young Scott Dixon, and De Ferran would announce his retirement from IndyCar racing at the end of 2003. After a successful post-IndyCar career in sports cars and team management at the highest levels of the sport, De Ferran passed away this winter of a heart attack in his home state of Florida. What followed was an incredible outpouring of support and admiration from living legends of our sport. As a tribute before this year's 500, Simon Pagenaud will drive the Panos Toyota that was victorious in the 2003 Indianapolis 500, a fitting tribute to a great champion. So we hope you enjoyed that tribute to Gilles de Ferran, because I really feel like he's a driver who is so underrated and was one of the greatest in the history of the race. And we actually have someone to help us with this. This is Michael Duforas, the writer here for the Indianapolis 500 for the Auto Hebdo publication in France. Now, De Ferran, while he raced under a Brazilian flag, was the first French-born driver to win the race since Gaston Chevrolet in 1920, and the first driver really to ever hold French heritage since 1914 with René Thomas. So, Michael, just kind of talk a little bit about Gilles de Ferran.
Yeah, well, first of all, David, thanks for inviting me for that. Yeah, Gilles, I mean, it was very emotional to see how everyone had a connection to Gilles. That's the most important thing, I think. If you see all up and down pit lane and all throughout the fans as well, they all had a story about Gilles or something and a connection to him. And he was just, personally, it was the first winner I saw.
Yep.
It was the first race I saw here at Indianapolis. So that was kind of my first connection to him. And then, of course, he was very methodical, kind of also a very funny guy. I mean, that was the kind of a side we maybe didn't see at first with Gilles, but very supremely fast, very technically focused. And that led, with him also being from Paris, it led to having a fantastic relationship with Simon Pagenaud.
Yes.
Which was basically the next French-born winner of the...
And essentially saved Simon's career, because when the Champ Car IndyCar merger happened, Simon was one of the drivers left on the outside. Gilles started his ALMS team, hired Simon, and really showed off what Simon could do at the top level. Of course, we mentioned in the feature that Simon Pagenaud will be driving that 2003 Panos Toyota. I know you've spoken to Simon this weekend or this week. You know, what's kind of Simon's feelings about Gilles?
It's very emotional. It's something that people maybe don't know that much, but he was very close to Gilles. It was more than just the technical relationship as just a driver and a team owner. Gilles was really the guy who helped Simon just develop a US career and develop as a man as well. They were very close, always in contact, even when Simon got married. He welcomed his two kids and his family. Gilles was always there to give him some advice and to give him the do's and don'ts. So Simon is very emotional. He was asked by the family to come and drive the car. So it was there was Angela, Gilles' wife, and then you had Luke and Anna, which were behind all this and said to Simon a few weeks ago, well, we want you to drive the car. So it was, like you said, a very emotional conversation. Not difficult to say yes to that, of course. Sure. Under his friend, and I saw him driving the car doing just a little test run, and you could feel like there's a lot of emotions, but he really wants to make it for Gilles, and that's very nice, nice stuff.
It's going to be absolutely awesome to see that race car back out there with Simon Pagenaud driving. How appropriate. You know, the French influence in the Indianapolis 500, we kind of talked about it. So many winners in the early years of the 500, so much influence. The Peugeots raced here. In fact, fact, the Offenhauser engine was based on the design of the Peugeot engine and won here for so many years. You know, both of our countries, the United States and France, were so influential in the early days of racing. And of course, the Indianapolis 500 is one of the key races in the world. But you know, you guys have a big race too, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I know that's kind of your bread and butter. That's where Auto Hebdo really, you know, gets their major amounts of notoriety. But what is the international feelings towards the Indianapolis 500 as a sporting event?
I think as the pure sporting event, everyone has to rank it high just because look at the place, look at the people that come to the place. It's really something that's quite important. But the race in itself, the racing is quite difficult to grasp maybe in France or in other parts of the world. And I think the influx of many European drivers has helped really shine a light on what the product here is at Indianapolis. In the middle of the 2000s, it was really seen as the really exotic race. As in the 90s, of course, you had Nigel Mansell, Emerson Fittipaldi, all those guys that really helped develop the feelings to the 500. Then it dipped a little, but finally it's coming back up, and I think they see it more as a specialist event, even though Marcus Ericsson wins it, and all the guys who come from Europe are starting to win it. So it's weird to see that in Europe it's seen as very specialist, as here maybe we are feeling like it's becoming more less specialized, and everyone, you know, you come here, you still have to have some years to really learn how to race on an oval. But yeah, it's really seen as a big event. It's part, of course, with Monaco of a great two race Sunday, and then leading us to Le Mans. So it sits on a nice place here.
One of my favorite stats from this race is that there are 4 drivers racing here in the Indianapolis 500 who qualified that will be able to compete for the top class victory at Le Mans. We would assume overall. We don't know for sure. You know, maybe Nolan Siegel can win it despite not qualifying here in United Autosports LMP2 car. But you know, kind of a great sign to me that the Indianapolis 500 is beginning to kind of make some inroads internationally is the fact that this exists. Now, for some of our regular viewers, you might know what Michel Vaillant is, because when I went to the Le Mans 24 Hours, I knew what it was, but I really discovered it. But there is now an IndyCar, a modern IndyCar comic book. So just kind of explain what this is for the American audience and why this is such a big deal for IndyCar.
And I can't help myself, but it's great to see that we have a comic book before an IndyCar video game, so that's already fantastic. No, but this one, so the Michel Vaillant brand, basically it started in the 50s. In 57, the first publication was made of Michel Vaillant. It was Jean Graton, who was the writer and the cartoonist. And they have relaunched the brand around 10 years ago. They are doing what they call the season 2. And so they are featuring Michel in many different events. And so 2 years ago, we had people from Michel Vaillant come here and just see the race. Because what's very important about this one, you see, even on the cover, the details, all the sponsors are trying to be as close as possible. If you go inside, you'll see you have the NTT Pit Center. I mean, all the stuff is trying to be as close to reality as possible, because they really want to make, of course, fantasy stories, but very much in reality and immersed in that reality. So it's been a blast. I've helped them actually, and I was lucky enough to contribute a little bit to this one. So it was very special. But yeah, it's. And in France, like you said, it's really huge. Like if you are a race fan in France, you have to have read at least one Michel Vaillant book, because it's really everywhere. So it's really nice to have. He did Formula E, he did WTCC as well. So it's not only Formula One and WEC. They're going to every single series possible. So that's quite a nice touch.
Well, it's amazing that they did Pikes Peak, and this is my copy. They didn't pay for this, but Michael did for sure. And I actually have a gift for you.
Oh, man.
Now I hope you like this, because I really like it. But it's something. Come on in here, Kyle. Just let's crack it open, and we're gonna do a toast, because I brought this back. Here you go.
Orangina, that's good.
So I don't. You like it? So
that's a French drink. Clearly.
Yes, of course. I love Orangina. It's one of my favorite drinks. When I took French class in high school, we always kind of were like, "Je voudrais Orangina," and it's like I want to try it. When I got to France, it was the first thing I tried at a Steak and Shake in Monaco, and I said, "This is my drink." So let's crack it open. I don't know if you're supposed to shake it. Someone told me you're supposed to shake it beforehand.
Yeah, I've never understood that because you're supposed to shake it, but there are bubbles in there, so you just.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's toast. Thank you, Michael, for coming on,
Thanks,
and
David.
let's enjoy some Orangina. So that was an absolutely fantastic segment. Thank you to Michael, and I always love an excuse to get out Orangina. You know, one of our other great friends here at the Speedway is the IMS Museum, and they're closed right now because they are under some renovations. And we actually got an exclusive tour of the IMS Museum, and we wanted to show it off for all of you.
Whenever you're ready. Helmet straight.
Helmet straight, jacket, yeah, you know, all that good stuff. Welcome to the IMS Museum. This is Luke Edwards with the IMS Museum, and we are going on a tour. It looks a little bit different right now, but it's going to look a lot different in 2025. Tell us a little bit about where we are right now.
So we're standing in the entryway. I'm sure you guys are really familiar with this part of the museum, although it looks completely different right now. Section behind us is what we call the rotunda. So we're gonna have some cool elements, some projections, old racing videos and stuff, just to welcome you when you first walk into the museum here. And then we'll go straight over to the Welcome Center, which is where you're gonna buy your ticket to get admission to the museum. And then you're gonna have a big reveal as we walk through this hallway, and we're going to walk back in time into Gasoline Alley right here.
This is so cool. So when I first saw the renders, because you've kept me in the loop as this process has gone on, and this has been the room that I was so excited to see. As you mentioned, Gasoline Alley. There used to be one garage here. Now there's several of them. Each period correct, with a period correct car, period correct equipment. I think this is going to be absolutely awesome. I think it's going to be the fan favorite thing. Tell us a little bit about these garages.
So when you first walk in right here, you're going to be standing on brick to represent the surface from the first 1911 Indy 500. So 3.2 million bricks. We're going to have that representation right here. And in the garage, as you said, David, you're going to go back in time. So we're going to have artifacts of the era. It's going to start with 1911, and we're gonna go up through the 20s. And then in here, and I apologize, we actually have set years for these. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Well, we got a forklift or not a forklift, a scissor lift in there right now.
That is not period correct for what will be in there eventually. But we're gonna kind of go forward through time. And as you approach up here, you're going to get into the 60s, the golden era, and you're going to have this transform into asphalt, so you'll see it transition into asphalt.
Oh, that's so cool.
Track surface.
Immersion is all the rage right now, and this room, while it doesn't look like much right now, I think it's going to be absolutely the highlight of the new museum. What are we looking at here, Luke?
So what you're looking at, if you can visualize, is the starting line of the Indy 500. So guests are going to walk in here. You're going to be on the track surface at the start-finish line. Up there a little bit further, you're going to have the front row of that year. So every year on pole day, we're going to re-wrap the cars as that starting line. So the first year that we open in April next year. It's going to be the Penske lockout front row as we've seen last weekend, with McLaughlin on pole. So it is a little it worked out, so it's going to harken back to the past this year a little bit. But I think the coolest experience of this is wrapped around you are going to be the stands and the pagoda to your inside. We're going to approach the front row here, and above us is a 20-foot wide LED screen that runs all the way from the back of the room, above you, and down in front of you here. So this wall right here is the size of the screen, so we can go stand next to this. So once you're here, this is all video screen putting you on the track race morning. Where the camera is right now, that's where the cars are going to be, and it's all going to have sound just surrounding you. So it's going to start at 5 in the morning. It's going to be dark. You're going to see the crews on this video screen start to tinker and open the garage doors, and the fans flood in, and it culminates at drivers start your engines, and turn 1, lap 1, the green flag will be waving above you, and the cars are going to be flying around you. And the cars that you're standing next to, those Indy cars from the front row, they're going to make a little bit of noise too.
I cannot wait Spring of 2025, right before the 2025 Indianapolis 500, the 109th running. Luke, I cannot wait. Thank you for this tour, buddy.
Absolutely. We're excited for you guys to see the finished product.
And of course, I mentioned in the starting grid video that 1988 was the last time and the only time previous that the Indianapolis 500 front row has been swept by a single team. That was Team Penske then. It's Team Penske now. We took a look at the 1988 month of May and how Penske dominated that month. This year's all Penske front row conjured memories of the only other time it's ever happened, 1988, again with Penske. And if 2024 is anything like 1988, this might be what to expect in the race. After a dismal experience in 1987 with the PC-16 and several seasons of dismal performances with the in-house Penske chassis, Penske poached top Lola designer Nigel Bennett and debuted an all-new chassis design, the Penske PC-17. The new Penske chassis was paired with a new Ilmor-built Chevy V8, which had dominated the 1987 500 with Mario Andretti, but failed with less than 20 laps to victory. The PC-17 Chevy showed promise, winning pole for the opening 2 rounds of the kart championship, but had failed to secure a win. The speed carried into May with a front row sweep in qualifying, with defending winner Al Unser Sr. on the outside, 85 winner Danny Sullivan in the middle, and Rocket Rick Mears on the pole, setting the track record and for the first time in history, setting laps that exceeded the 220-mile-per-hour barrier. On the start, Sullivan got the jump and controlled the race, with Unser in hot pursuit. Mears began to suffer major handling problems and fell a full lap behind his teammates' pace. This was solved by an unconventional decision to switch wheel rims, which solved his handling issues, but Mears still had a long way to catch up. Suddenly, it was Danny Sullivan in the wall, and the dominant car was out. The front wing adjuster had failed, causing the accident, a design flaw that threatened the other 2 PC-17s in the race. Penske found a high-tech solution: duct tape. With Sullivan eliminated, it was a battle between Mears and Unser, and not even a jaywalking jackrabbit could deny Penske that day. Between the 3 cars, Team Penske led a remarkable 192 of the 200 laps, with Rick Mears taking his 3rd Indy 500 win. One of the greatest days Penske had at the Speedway, one of the most dominant months of May in history, and on top of that, they delivered Chevrolet's first win as a brand in the Indianapolis 500. Okay, this is the part that I'm sure many of you have been waiting for in this video. It's time for me to start talking about the Indianapolis 500 and my predictions for the 500. You know, I think Stefan Wilson had a really great point yesterday when we talked to him. The strategy of this race has totally changed, especially after last year, but really the last 2 years with the red flags coming at the end of the race. You're now not necessarily thinking about making it to the end, you're thinking about what can put me in the best position for that last restart. Tires? Yes. Maybe a light car? Yes. Maybe not running into drivers or abusing your equipment too early. The last restart, maybe the last pit stop, wins this race. We'll see. I do think it's going to be a massive fuel save race. I think Penske can control it if they behave themselves and get the first 3 cars all in a line together once the field settles out. I think guys like Alexander Rossi, Santino Ferrucci, and some others, Rinus VeeKay maybe, will try to move up through the field early and often to take that point. Another point, speaking of Rinus VeeKay, he was one of the only drivers yesterday to test the out-of-bounds line, new for this year, the entry to the pit lane. If you go below that, they will give you a time penalty if the race ends. We could see the winner of the Indianapolis 500 not actually win the race for the first time since 1995 when Jacques Villeneuve was the first to cross the line, but he was penalized. So there's a lot of thoughts about that. The only 2 drivers I saw try that yesterday were Rinus VeeKay and Will Power. I guess we should talk about Team Penske. Will Power's car looks like the strongest of the 3. Joseph Newgarden's the weakest, Scott McLaughlin's in the middle. Will Power, I think, is absolutely hungry, will be going absolutely all out to win the Indianapolis 500, but much like 1988, I kind of feel like that cartoon anvil is going to hit him, much like it hit Danny Sullivan. And if we're looking at 1988 as a parallel, I think Scott McLaughlin will win this race. And I hate to pick the pole sitter, I know it's boring, but I think Scotty's going to win the race. As for Kyle Larson, I think everybody's going to think about Kyle. I think he's going to have a good day. I think it's a top 10. I guess we'll bring in Kyle real quick since I've given my prediction. Kyle, you've been watching all month. You've been silent. You haven't wanted to be silent, but you have been. So this is your time to speak. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think I had a pick coming up here, but now I think I'm going to make an audible. I made my pick about a month ago, and I told my pick that I was going to pick him. He told me that was bad karma, so I won't pick him. I'm going to go with Alexander Rossi. I was going to pick Kyle Kirkwood, but something's just telling me that Rossi has the car. I want to pick a Chevrolet. I don't want to pick a Penske car because I don't want to be like you and be boring. But
fair.
I mean,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rossi's just got a different mojo this year. It's the same thing that you've been saying to me about McLaughlin. I mean, I feel like he's hungry. I feel like the first time he won it, he was he's a little young, didn't get to appreciate it, and he's come close. And yeah, he's got the car. Kirkwood, I think, will be up there.
Yep.
And I think, other than that, Colton looked probably insanely strong yesterday, and as he has been all month. So I mean, I'd look for all those three, and my biggest dark horse is probably Elio. So for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that's Kyle. So yeah, Kyle brings up a couple of really good points. Yes, Rossi for sure. He was in my top 3 in the tier list for a reason. You talk about the Andretti team, and that extends to Meyer Shank Racing. Those cars are extremely strong. Colton has looked great in traffic, and he's going to need it from 13th. The other car that's looked great in traffic, Elio Castroneves. The other thing I'm asking is, are we sleeping on Chip Ganassi Racing? We're not talking about them. We're not saying they have a great chance. Typically, when we sleep on somebody, sometimes it actually works out that way. As for the weather, I'm worried about it. I mean, maybe we'll get it in tomorrow, but I'm very doubtful at this time. I think we're racing on Monday. I think the 500 is going to be broadcast on USA Network, which makes me really, really nervous for a lot of variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, you guys know where to find me. When the race happens, we will definitely have our review of it. I'm not sure what we'll do on Sunday if it does rain. I would love to hear your ideas in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a labor of love, man. I hope you guys have appreciated it, because this race means so much to me, and it means so much to me to produce it and show it off in the light that it deserves. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.